Happy lunch hour, gang. Okay, chugging along for a Tuesday. Hopefully this video doesn't have the problems like I had this morning, but hopefully you guys got to check that out and get registered. Hopefully, well, somebody will win tonight, but we'll get going on that in a few hours. So, as some of the country is dealing with unbearable heat, down here, we're dealing with the heat and very dry conditions. I mean, it's like dust outside. If you get into the upper Midwest, say Minnesota and Iowa, it is pouring rain nonstop, okay? And this is something that we all should be paying attention to because it's all going to affect us, all right? If you've seen what's going on with the Mississippi River, okay, Minnesota's getting flooded, Iowa's getting flooded, and all that water is going into the Mississippi. Now, to give you an idea, the Mississippi River, you know how big this thing is, okay, has risen 5 feet in the last 3 weeks. Okay. And it's starting to flood areas. In St. Paul, okay, St. Paul, Minneapolis, St. Paul area, the river is half an inch from moderate flood stage. The river is supposed to increase 5.5 more feet this week. This becomes a problem, because now what you're having is, besides roads washed out, dams breaking, communities completely underwater, houses getting washed out. There's been a couple of people that have died so far. There was a dam that broke and washed a guy in his car away. There was somebody else that died in Iowa from all of this. But now you get the problem of what is going on with food. Because to give you this as an idea, nearly 100 million tons of food are transported down, of just food, okay? 100 million tons of food is transported down the Mississippi River every year, okay? Corn, soybeans, cotton, poultry, beef, pork. I mean, everything that's coming from the Central Plains and the upper Midwest goes down the Mississippi River to go wherever it's going to go, all right? All those meat products you buy, chances are some of them spent time on the Mississippi. All those vegetables that you buy spent time on the Mississippi. They have to get loaded. There are processing plants that, like anywhere else, I mean, again, remember what we were talking about the sugar plant when the barge hit the bridge on the East Coast earlier this year in Maryland. Yeah, they put the processing plants right there on the river because, okay, you process it, you load it right on a barge, and you're done. Good. The processing plants are flooding. I got an email this morning from Heather, all right, and she lives up there in Le Sueur, Minnesota. And as she says, the possibility of flooding is very high. Our manufacturing plant is in Le Sueur. This is Green Giant, okay? The water has been turned off at the facility, so there's no production. Can only imagine what's going on there where there's definite flooding happening. So now you have a Green Giant facility shut down, not producing any food, right in the middle of harvest season. So what happens? You can guarantee the price of canned vegetables is going to go up for a couple of reasons. One, there's not going to be as much supply on the shelf. And I got to think if it's just Green Giant, there's other facilities too, guys, okay? Just don't think it's just one. But then the other problem that you're going to have is if the farmers can't get their wares to market, they rot in the field, okay? Or they just rot in a truck, however they can do it. You know, you've got to harvest stuff when it's ready. You can't just leave beans on the vine for another 2 weeks until the water hopefully recedes. Doesn't work that way, okay? You can't just leave corn, you know, on the stalks and wait for sweet corn, for example. You can't just leave it there. It's got to be picked when it's ready. And so all this flooding is going to affect the food supply. How much, we don't know. But this is reason 6,422,311 why we prep, why we garden, why we have stuff in our stockpiles. We all know what Bidenomics has done to the cost of food already. Now, if we have another form of supply chain issue, being the river, being the barges, being the processing plants, not being able to operate due to flooding, you got a problem. Then you add the other stuff to it. Let's talk about insurance, okay? Whether or not people have flood insurance, whether these towns are going to be able to reclaim the buildings and clean the buildings on tax dollars. The governor of Minnesota has already declared a peacetime emergency so they can get federal funds to save the state. Guess where those come from? Well, I'd say tax dollars, except we spent all those. So we'll just have to print more money at the Fed, which of course means we're going to drive inflation up. It's something as simple as a lot of rain is an SHTF event in Minnesota and Iowa right now. That's 1,000 miles from me, thereabouts, okay? And it's going to affect me. It's going to affect the amount of food I can get at the store, the variety I have to choose from at the store. It's going to affect the cost that I pay for everything. It will inevitably affect everybody's insurance because all the insurance companies will spread that expense out over everybody else. We don't normally pay attention to the weather in other parts of the country. You may see, oh, it's hot in the Northeast, or oh, it's raining in Seattle, and you really don't worry about it too much. You get issues like the cold spell in Texas a couple of years, or this scenario up in Minnesota and Iowa. These are ones you need to pay attention to because it's exactly situations like this why you prep. Pinball out.